1 Kings chapter 18. If you do not have a book, we have our sheets on the back when you first walk in. Well, not the back, but the front. When you first walk in, right next to the communion, we have some sheets there. Lesson 3 is our text. Lesson 3 is our text, and 1 Kings 18 is our biblical text. 1 Kings chapter 18. 1 Kings chapter 18. All right, we will not read all of 1 Kings 18 again this week, just for sake of time. We will read a couple of key passages, though. We want to make sure we give everyone opportunity to at least remember some of the key important pieces of the sections here, but we won't read all of it. This is right before the end of the famine. Remember, the famine is for spiritual discipline, right? Keep that in mind, right? Physical means for spiritual discipline, much like parents do discipline even to this day, right? They're going to take something away from a child that holds some importance to that child to try to get their attention, right? So God is doing the same thing. And much like a household, right, when one or multiple people in the household are on punishment, the household is impacted. The land and the people that are around are going to be impacted, right? Keep that in mind. So there are other countries who worship other gods, including Baal. They are receiving the ramifications of the sin that Israel is a part of, right? If you want to think about that, think of the story of Jonah, right? All the people who were on the boat with Jonah were impacted. If you remember, when the storm came, they were trying to cast lots to figure out whose God was upset with who, if you remember, right? So just keep that in mind. This is no different than how discipline works, right? Or how conflicts work in the world, right? If there's conflict in a certain portion of the world, the rest of the world in that vicinity, and sometimes the entire world, will be impacted by that, right? So there's no difference there. All right, we have some important players here. Ahab is in charge. Obadiah is his sort of spiritual advisor type of kind of gopher, right-hand man guy. Obadiah is a believer of God, though, right? He tries to do things behind the scenes. He hides 50 prophets in one area and 50 in another area in a cave. He gives them food and water. He tries to do the right thing, but obviously he's grossly outnumbered, right? Jezebel, we talked about last week, Ahab's wife. Her mindset was to introduce a worship that was different from what the Israelites were doing and to maintain that. So obviously, in order to do that, I need to do what? I need to get rid of the people, the religious leaders who were worshiping the old way, to put forth the new way, right? It's just logical, right? Doesn't mean it's right, but it just makes logical sense if that's what you're trying to do. So Elijah is the last one left. Elijah's been hiding. Now, Elijah's hiding is extremely effective. Ahab has been looking at him for a while. And as he's been looking for him, no stone has gone unturned. He's been every nook, cranny, river, right? Every crevices, he's been looking. He's been asking other kings, have they found them? And when he's looking for him, when people say, no, I haven't seen Elijah over here, he makes them swear. Now, if people said that they seen Elijah and they go over there and Elijah is gone, he end up killing them. So Ahab is looking for Elijah because of all those 100 prophets that Obadiah was hiding before. Elijah is the number one, right? If they can get rid of Elijah, then they will successfully snuff out all of the old religious regime, right? So once we get rid of Elijah, we're good. In our story that we read last week, chapter 18, Elijah shows up to Obadiah. Obadiah recognizes him, right? Which is extremely profound because there is no photography, right? There is no internet. Right? So like, don't minimize recognizing, because when they came to get Jesus, they didn't even remember what he looked like. Remember, they had to have Judas kiss him because he looked like everyone else, right? Sometimes we think back, but from today's lens, right? So the fact that he remembered what Elijah looked like is already profound. And he was so excited to see Elijah, right? That also speaks to Obadiah's faith, right? His only hesitation was when Elijah was saying to go to Ahab and say, hey, Elijah's coming. That's when he was like, wait a minute. Did I do something wrong? Because remember, he knows that he being Obadiah, that the people are being punished spiritually. So his first reaction was, maybe God is upset with me, so he's sending me back to Ahab so that Ahab can kill me. And what did Elijah say? No, I'm going to appear to him today, because the beginning of the chapter starts with God telling Elijah to go see Ahab. So this all started from God, because the drought is about to be over. That's the whole point. But before the drought is over, there needs to be a visual display. And this is something we have to remember throughout all class today, to the people, right? They're not trying to convince so much Ahab, Jezebel, or the priests, the 450 Baal priests. Keep that in mind. Okay, so he goes, he does appear. And it's interesting that how Ahab greets Elijah. Verse 17, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said to him, is that you, O troubler of Israel? What did Elijah say? I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, in that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and you have followed the Baals or Baals, right? So now we see Elijah. We already know these two are mortal enemies, right? Just by the salutations. Oh, look, here comes the troubler of Israel, right? Oh, troubler. I thought I was a prophet. I thought my LinkedIn profile said prophet. I didn't know it said trouble, right? So already you can see each one has dug a spiritual trench on their side, right? This sounds much like Moses and Pharaoh, kind of, right? Meaning you don't see anyone persuading the other yet, right? Okay, got it. Elijah comes up with this plan, a visual display. Remember, the people are the main source here through today's class. He has this plan that seems extremely logical for both sides. Now, when I say both sides, the only people on Elijah's side is Elijah publicly and Obadiah quiet, right? But for everyone else, his point is, let's take two bulls and let's do a sacrifice like a game, right? And we'll see which God, or maybe both gods, will respond, so that people will have no guesswork of what's going on. Now, that seems extremely logical, right? Because instead of saying you should worship another way, and someone say, no, you should worship this way, he's saying, let's see how we should worship based on who we're worshiping, how they respond. Logical, right? Whoever we're worshiping, let's see how they respond. So you have a lot of priests. Remember, it's 450 of them on this side. And he was like, you guys should go first, right? You have home court advantage. So the priests go and they, doing their little ceremony. Elijah starts taunting them because is Baal responding? No. So he was saying maybe he's away or deep in thought. Maybe he's sleeping. You should just try to praise louder. Because just if you praise louder and kind of more enthusiastic, maybe your God will respond. Now, pause for a second. That same logic is how people worship today. People have the mindset that if I praise more enthusiastic, that makes my praise more effective. Let's go back to the Old Testament when there was a storm and a thunder. Was God in any of that? No, God was in what? Just the little voice. Go to 1 Corinthians when God is saying, I'm not the God of chaos, of confusion. I'm the God of peace. There's always been an extreme disconnect between how God wants to be worshiped and how people want to worship him. I say this all the time as a very dumbed down example of a birthday. If you come to anything to celebrate my birthday, I like certain things a certain way. If you were to start doing some sort of celebration that's not my vibe, I can only assume you don't know me, because I'll say I appreciate the effort, but that was not for me, right? Because I don't like that. God is the exact same way. For some reason, people assume the more outward display, the better God will be pleased. But God is saying, where did you get that from? So much so, though, right, that we're not going to look at this in today's class, But in books and books and books from now in the Old Testament, they come up with a plan where they say, listen, I know how God will be pleased. We should take babies and throw them in the fire. And God said, when did I ever say that I wanted someone to throw a baby in a fire to worship me? See, that's how far people can get away. But it's just like every day. This happens to older mothers, fathers, and grandparents all the time. People will be doing celebrations and grandparents be like, what? I don't eat this. Don't your young people do that, right? Hey, the grandma eat this. Wear this. All the girls wearing their nails like this. And what's the grandmother saying? I'm a grandmother. I don't want to change the way I wear my nails. But the kids are so consumed with looking at things from whose eyes? Their eyes. Oh, why you don't look at it from grandparents' eyes? You know what grandparents would like that the kids miss all the time? It's just some quality time, right? You don't got to do none of this pomp and circumstance, right? That's a young person's vibe. But grandparents just would like for you to call. Or if you say you're going to take them somewhere, actually show up, maybe, God forbid, early, at least on time, right? But we miss that because we're looking at the situation from our eyes instead of from the grandparents' eyes. When you talk about worship, you have to look at it from God's eyes. If you come to my birthday dinner, you have to look at it from Ellis's eyes. Because my view is different from yours, right? So if I have a party and I say, you should dress this way, I'm having a themed birthday party, and you come in dressed the way you want to dress, I can only assume you did that on purpose. That's me, right? Because I asked you how to come to dress, right? And if you were coming to honor me, you would have changed your clothes even for one day for me. This sounds like worship service to me. Can you give your best? Well, no, I give my best to dates. I give my best to funerals. I give my best to wedding. I don't want to give my best to worship service to church. So keep this in mind. This is not a new frame of mind. People have always been struggling with this, right? Okay, guys. So spoiler alert, the 450, they start even cutting themselves. That's how enthusiastic they're doing for worship. But does Baal ever wake up and respond? Well, no, because Baal is just something they put together, right? Okay, fine. 3 times Elijah says, take all this water, douse the bull in the wood, everything. That way no one can say, oh, just by accident, it's hot out here, because it is a drought, remember? It just started burning up by itself. His prayer was that God would show the people and reveal to the people who he was. Boom, combustion. The people said, now we know that the real God is God. And Baal, he never woke up. So Elijah speaks to the people. Notice, not Ahab. Grab the Baal prophets. Don't let any get away. We got to kill them, right? So they did it. Then he tells Ahab to go and eat because the drought is going to be over. Then he goes to Mount Carmel. He gets down all the way to the ground where his head is in between his legs. And 7 times he sent his servant down to the sea and said, just look from a distance and just see if you see something. Every time he comes back, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, I don't see nothing. Then one more time, this 7th time, just go back. Every time now Elijah is praying. On the 7th time he come back and he says, what? There's a cloud just rising up from the sea in the distance. It's not even just the size of a man's hand. And then he says, go to Ahab and tell him what? The drought's over. Why is the drought over? Because the people came to the realization, even outside of what was presented to them, that they were doing the wrong thing spiritually. As a parent, all a parent is looking for a child to do during the disciplinary phase, during the punishment phase, is for the child to come to the realization that they were wrong. The parent already know they were wrong. The discipline is for who? The child or for the parent? The child. The parent already knows not only what they were doing was wrong, but what the parent expected, right? The parent already knows that. The child have to wake up in their room and think, wait a minute, I was wrong. You know the discipline discipline wasn't effective, when the child comes out of the disciplinary phase and just do the same thing over again, what do you say then? The child didn't get it, right? Obviously, the child just made it through the discipline, but the goal of the discipline never sunk through the child's mind. See, God was disciplining them with the drought, but the goal of the discipline never sunk through their mind. See, they still, during the drought, they never woke up one day and said, wait a minute, maybe this is a drought because God is upset with us. See, and that's most of children with discipline. You ask a kid why they got disciplined and they'll be, I don't know. Well, then we got a problem, right? How you mean you don't know until they can repeat back to you that what they did was wrong, they didn't get it. Unlike God, you know how people parent, after a while, the parent gets tired of the discipline. So the parent don't wait for the child to come to the realization. The parent ends the discipline phase early. So the kid come out of the discipline phase with no understanding of why they did wrong. And now they just think, oh, mom or dad was mad at me. That's poor parent, right? Your child shouldn't be looking at it as mad. It ain't about being mad at you, because mad would mean that I'm invested in whatever you're doing. I'm the parent, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to grow up to be a poorly functioning member of society? That's on you, right? Because parents say, I'm at a certain point, you can't come in here. So I'm already the parent. All this discipline is for you so that you can function better in this world. It's not about me being mad at you. It's about you listening, following, and adhering to instructions. But most people can't stay the course with the disciplinary phase. Unlike us, though, God have time, and we're not going to wear him down with foolishness, because his discipline is to grab your attention back before it's too late. Now, some parents will be that way. Some parents will be like, look, I told you don't do this. I knew we had a neighbor that was like that. She told her son, don't do this. The son did it. I guess the son thought she was playing. When it came time for Christmas, she gave all the gifts away. Well, I told you that not to do that. See, some parents be, no, that's too harsh, because I at least want my kids to have a Christmas. She disagreed. She said Christmas was for good kids. This was a bad kid, right? Now, I'm sure that impacted her memories, at least for one Christmas, but she held a line on her discipline, because greater than her memories for Christmas was for that child to understand that right is right and wrong is wrong. See? So when we look at this, that's what God was doing, because at the end of the day, let's go back to what we were saying. The whole reason this started was because they were worshiping God incorrectly. So doesn't it make sense that God should decide how he wants to be worshiped? That should make logical sense. I told you, use the same example. Anything to do with me, I'm deciding. That's me. I will decide what we eat on my birthday. Do not surprise me. That's me, because I want to eat what I want to eat. Don't I'm only born one day. Am I born multiple days in a year? No. I want to eat what I want to eat. I want to go where I want to go. Mother's Day. Mother's Day is a time. I want to go to this restaurant. What do be the response a lot of times? Oh, it's going to be packed there. Now we worried about packed all of a sudden. I want to go there. No one asked about packed, not packed, right? She said she wanted to eat there. So guess what? We're going to eat there because we're honoring her. See, God is no different. Matter of fact, is greater. But for some reason, people want God to accept any kind of worship they give him. I don't understand why that is, but I see the disconnect, because people treat family members that way. But see, me, my family members, they can't treat me that way, because I told you, I only like what I like. People say it's the thought that counts. It's not the thought that counts with me. You know why? Because if you thought about me, you would have gave a better gift. I'd rather you not give me a gift. Yeah, because that's not my gift. That's not my gift you gave me. That's someone else's gift. You were in the store, and at the last minute, you thought of me and you was in the aisle. You know, at holiday time, they put those stocking stuffers at the aisle, and you just grabbed anything, wrapped it, and said to Ellis, that's not my gift. That can't be my gift. See? But see, some people's personality isn't like mine. Some people accept anything from anyone, so they're confused at why God don't accept anything from anyone. But see, I don't accept anything from anyone, so I never was confused how God could want a specific thing. That makes sense to me because that's me. We have to understand that God's point is, if you love me, you would know what I like and what I don't like. We struggled with that with relationships. See how we could struggle with that with God? You have people who've been married for 32 presidential terms, and they still can't remember somebody's favorite color. Can't remember what their favorite food is. Let me help you. It's best we part ways. Because if you can't remember the small things, what does the Bible say about being a good steward about small things? Is that not in your Bible? If you can't be a good steward over small things, how are you going to be a good steward over big things? How are you going to convince someone that you love them if you can't even take the time to remember the tiniest detail about them? But that's every day. People be in relationships that way. See, don't confuse routine with love and admiration. People just get into a routine. Some people together because they just been together. It's just how it is. That's all. Ain't no love there. It's just routine, right? I kept coming home and you kept coming home. I don't know. We keep coming home, right? Until somebody don't come home, we just still together. That's how some people have relationships. That don't mean that those two people are committed to becoming one. Some people just come to church. Why you go to that church? I don't know, my family goes to that church. That way, when somebody tells them about a new church, they go to the new church because they just go to church. Some people love being in relationships. Some celebrities that way. The other relationships still room temperature at best, and they already with someone else. You thinking, man, I thought I could have, what's today, Sunday? I thought Friday on that person's social media, they was locking lips with someone else. Now they, the love of my life. I be thinking, man, I only got one life. I don't see how people got that many love. I don't know how people got that much love in them, that they could just have all these loves of their life. And so fast, people just, but people worship that way. People will be at worship service A one week, worship service B, and they still be worshiping. I'll be thinking, wow, that's strange to me. I mean, even if I went, how could I worship the same way in two different worship services? That's strange to me. How could I be at a church today, a synagogue next week, and a temple the week after and worship the same? Those three different gods. See? But that's how people could be Friday with this person, Tuesday with this person, Monday with that person. Some people are wired that way. See how we have to be honest with ourselves? In relationships, some people have no type. They just like relationship. Could be white, black, Asian, Native American, tall, short, no type. You just think, man, your resume of dates look like the United Nations. They just want to be in a relationship. If you have that type of mindset, I could clearly see how you look at worship service and be like, as long as you're worshiping, why does it matter? But some people not that way. Some people only like what they like, and they rather not have than to have something that they don't want. But notice how some people whose mind that way, they don't understand those type of people, which is why they give bad gifts. See, you know why I expect a certain gift? Because I give great gifts. Ask any person I ever gave a gift. I give you something that's to you. That means regardless of the price, I took time out of my busy life, think about this for a second, to stop what I was doing, to give you something for your benefit. I don't get nothing from that. So the least you could have did, just the least, you just give me something where I say, wow, that person know Ellis better than Ellis. Your God is greater than that. The least you could do of all that I have given you all week, the least you could do is come somewhere on Sunday morning and worship. I just asked in two ways, spirit and in truth. That's the least you could do. Some of y'all almost died this week. Some people almost died this week. Don't even realize death was knocking and God said, no, it's not now. See? And you just, God said, I know I'm going to get a good worship Sunday. Because Ellis almost died. And Sunday come and go. God said Monday, hey, what happened to Sunday? I get to you when I get to you. Don't family members treat you that way? Some years, I know this family member giving me a great gift. All the nonsense I bailed them out of in the December come and go. And you think, where was my gift, man? Oh, I don't got it. You don't got it. See how people treat loved ones that they see, then how they going to treat a God who they can't see? See my point? People take loved ones for granted every single day. People can't even tell loved ones they're sorry. No wonder people can't ask for forgiveness on Sunday morning to God, right? People's version to family members that I'm sorry is that I start talking to you again. Let me help you. That's not an apology. An apology is I'm sorry. I would, even if you got to type that to me through Google Translate in another language because you too prideful to say it in the language I speak, I'll even accept that. But people can't tell the people they can see and touch every day they're sorry. It's no wonder to me why they can't tell God Almighty. See what we're saying? Sometimes we approach spiritual things the wrong way. And it leaves us confused as to why we and other people do what we do spiritually. But before you analyze yourself or anyone spiritually, look at how you treat things physically. See? And if you say, let me see if there's any connection between how I treat things physically and spiritually. Oh, I see a thread here. And God may be telling you, yeah, see, if you can focus on that. That's why he said, if you can love one another the way I have loved you, loving me will come so simple. But first, you have to love one another. People say, I want to skip that part, and I just want to love God. God's saying, I'm trying to tell you it's not going to work because you can't see me. You can only see my attributes and the effects of my presence. I need you to love one another. See? But you know why I know people struggle with that? Parents beyond their deathbed. And just couple, especially if you have more than one kid. But what's just one of your number one wishes as a parent if you were translating from this life to another? Can y'all just get along? Amen. Is that not true? Some parents, they just about to transition. They not even concerned with where they're going to spend eternity. They thinking about, can y'all just get along? It don't make it to the funeral. Don't make it to the funeral, right? Where you can't even swallow your pride and be the bigger person for the sake of your common mother or your common father. See, if you can't do that, how in the world I expect somebody to love the church when God has? Because your mom has too. God has to love people and your mom has to love people. You didn't listen to your mom. I can only assume you're not going to listen to God. See? That's why when we start talking about family, we say fix those things. Because if you can be the bigger person and fix family problems, fixing church problems who you only see a couple of times is so much easier. But we be having eternal wars with blood relatives that we can't fix, we can't mend. See, all of this is to say, wow, I got to make sure that I'm not doing something days before I even get to Sunday that impacts my Sunday. That's what they miss. See, they miss. Oh, I see why God was mad, right? We were breaking one of his main commandments, which we were worshiping other gods. They missed that. They needed this huge display to remind them of what God was asking them all along. See, and then they finally said, oh my goodness, why? I can't believe we was worshiping Baal. This is complete foolishness. We got to go back to worshiping God. Sorry, wow. They needed that. And God said, okay, now because you came back to that truth, the drought is over. We have to come to those realizations faster. It shouldn't take a drought to bring our minds back to spiritual things. See, one pandemic happened. And Christians, I'm not talking about the world. Christians were throwing up their hands and, I don't know what, but death could come to you anytime. Who told you you're going to reach a certain age? Anytime death could come to us. See? But we stop thinking that way, right? We start thinking about plans and life. And one little virus disease that you can't see happen, just one. And we looked at this several Wednesdays ago, not to minimize the people that died. It wasn't the Black Plague. Wasn't the Spanish flu. One war happened. It wasn't World War I. Do you know how many people died during those events I just said? Remember, we looked at that a couple Wednesdays ago to put in perspective. Oh, we thank God it's not as bad as it could have been. But you notice people weren't thinking about that 2 years. They were throwing up their hands instead of saying, I thank God it's not as bad as it could have been. I thank God that the people that I know had COVID, they didn't pass. Instead of praying like that, we thinking, oh God, why are you forsaking us? Forsaking you? I've been protecting you this whole time. See, our view on the physical things are skewed. So when God forbid we don't get what we want, we try to punish God. And people say, I'm not going to go to church or worship correctly because I lost my job. Well, sweetheart, you should have beat everyone to church if you just lost your job. Now we think we're going to punish God. Don't kids act that way, right? I'm not going to do dishes because I asked for this toy at Walmart and the parent didn't give me this toy. Oh, I guess you don't never want a toy because now we got a power struggle, right? In the house, because someone is deciding that they're the parent. They're going to decide the rules. So now somebody has to break in this game of chicken. See, because that's what the child is. The child is saying, when the child say no, they're saying, I am not doing that because I'm in charge now. Oh, I thought I was in charge. I thought I paid bills. No, I'm not going to pay bills and I'm not going to do what you ask. Ooh, that sounds like a utopia. Where they do that at? And see, that's where we met. People treat worship that way. I had a bad week. I'm not going to church. Oh, guess you want another bad week. No, so, okay, so, and then we just playing a so game and let's see how long that lasts. We have to make sure, again, that our Monday through Saturday is not negatively impacting our Sunday. They let their Monday through Saturday impact their theoretical Sunday, right? Obviously, they're worshiping on the Sabbath, but you get my point. They let their everyday life impact their spiritual in a negative instead of the other way around, see? Because if they were worshiping correctly, their everyday life, they wouldn't have had a drought. They would have been blessed physically because of their spiritual focus, which is why Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these other physical things that your Father in heaven know that you need, he will give you those. He's just asking you to focus on spiritual first. He didn't say don't look at physical things, but just have a focus of spiritual first. That is a very simplified request to get everything that you need, and even things that you don't even know you want, but somehow every day, just like the Israelites, we miss it. The point of today's class was, if we don't look at it this way, we will say, how in the world somebody will start worshiping Baal and cutting themselves? Because at the end, we think, how did we get here, right? But if we take time and look back at our days, become weeks, become months, become years, become a lifetime, we think, oh, how did I get here? Sometimes you wake up that way. You think, what? How did I get here? My GPS. How did I get here? And somebody be like, what you mean? No, I'm here. How did I get here? I said, well, we drove here. No. I'm talking about here with you. I'm like, how did I end up here? Because what happened was you got caught up in a routine. And see, when nothing is a big deal and you don't analyze anything, just like a wave or a river, the sea of life just carry you, right? If you say, I'm going to just stand still, the sea of life say, no, you're not. I'm just going to carry you. And you're going to end up on a shore that you don't belong. See, instead of letting God guide you, we have to make sure that our everyday lives don't negatively impact how we worship God. It should be the other way around. Yes, Brother David.
Just wanted to add, I feel like reflection is something that is very lacking in us. Like one of the things that is such a failure here is like every time there's an opportunity for individuals to reflect on what they have done, or just reflect on their daily life. Like normally you mention routine. In the end of the day, when you pray, do you reflect on your day that you had?
Right.
Do you really think back, hey, the day I had is because of the day, of the things that are outside of my control? Part of the thing here that's very lacking is like we see this story every chapter it just keeps on repeating. There's miracles that happen, people see the miracles, it's amazing, and then people just return back to what they did. Even in here, right, there's amazing, it says Elijah brought literally everybody of the Israelite people to show this amazing thing. And the next chapter he's running from his life because he's being chased. Yep. So you would think that after something amazing happens, you would see it, but I mean, reflect on yourself. When something amazing happened to you, do you always go back and say, oh, that amazing thing happened, now I'm gonna change my ways? You said World War I, World War II. Do we learn from the last World War?
That's how we in this situation.
Next World War is still coming, right? Like it's not, it's like, if we learn this, so many people die. People made documentaries, people made like literally day-to-day life of a soldier from birth to death that died in a war, and still the next leader says, we're gonna start a war again. Like, it's not that we don't know, it's that we don't reflect. And in an individual level, that is very lacking. The thing that is really sad about it is like, it's very easy to go into the routine and double down on yourself. Last week when we talked about Jezebel, we were like, oh yeah, this is a woman that has influence. We don't see other women that have had that kind of influence. There's an opportunity for that, somebody who has that level of ability to do something, but it's something about individuals not wanting to reflect back and say, hey, I did something wrong. Literally, Ahab is like, you, the troublemaker, you're the one who caused the drought, not thinking, hey, I was the one, because literally my ancestors have been doing this mistake that I'm still doing, and they're still not learning from it. So I feel like every person here from this lesson, like to be able to reflect every day is something that is like crucial.
Yeah, I mean, that reflection is critical, right? We talk about it as a society, December 31st, January 1st, right? By lunchtime, January 1st, you already forgot whatever your resolutions are. But you need to think about that daily. Paul said he died how often? Daily. He said that he buffeted his body what? Daily, right? People who work out, people who eat right, how often they do? Daily. Right? Now, if you worked out every once in a while, what would happen? Absolutely nothing. You literally wasted your time. Will even one six-pack form? No, right? So you should have just been doing what you wanted to do. But our mind is, when we go to the gym the first time, what do we do before we go home? Look in the mirror. Let me help you. Nothing changed. Literally, you just went to the gym one time. But we look in the mirror and in our mind, we feel what? Oh, I think I lost weight, sweetheart. No, you did not, right? We eat one salad. We be thinking, man, let me make my physical. No, right? Like you didn't even digest yet, right? But in our mind, we think this good. And that salad should carry us 7 days. And your body thinking, whew, all the grease and fat, you just think that little bit of romaine lettuce can cancel that out like a fraction? Yes, that's how we live. We don't think about commitment. Right? What it would take to change behavior is commitment. You'd have to take your free time, like Brother David is saying, to reflect and say, okay, what were my wins and losses today? So that if I wake up tomorrow, I can have more wins than losses. Financial people think like that. Fitness people think like that. But spiritual people, do we think like that? Financial people think wins and losses daily. They're not trying to hear nothing about the month. I'm trying to make money today and tomorrow and the next day. So the focus has to be, you know what? I got to do some sort of inventory. I have to make some time in 24 hours to do some inventory, or I'm going to repeat the same behavior again tomorrow, right? Unless I analyze today, tomorrow will look similar or worse, right? Because I have to say to myself, hey, I got to at least take a couple of minutes to say, how could I have handled situations better? That's an easy way to start, because in a day, even on Sunday, no situation will be handled 100%, right? So at least every day, think to yourself just this. How could I had handled any of the situations I was in better? Any of them. Just pick one. And you would think of some ways where you could say, oh, I could have not said that. I didn't have to say that.
Right.
Because when I said that, this person said that, and I know me, when that person say that, ooh, child, you know I'm gonna say this. And when that person did this, I'm thinking, okay, gloves are off. But you think to yourself, how did we get here? Oh, I had the control to walk away. Just with that little bit of growth every day. But until you take the time to reflect, you'll never get there. And then the other thing that we have to think about is the difference between attraction and responsibility. I know this is not popular nowadays, but I live under the guise of responsibility. I know people don't live that way because people feel that you should do whatever makes you happy. People feel like kids should go to school and follow their passion. Let me help. What I'm passionate about, I like eating at restaurants and I like watching great TV series and great movies. Is that a job? I mean, unless I'm going to be a food critic or a movie critic, which would take time. Will someone pay me to be passionate about eating at a restaurant? Sweetheart, there was a time period people was working in a factory. Were they passionate about that? You think anyone was passionate about working in a factory in the 1900s? Remington Steel down by Seaside. Think anybody walked in there was like, man, I'm passionate about working here. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. I know that's not popular anymore. People that say, no, that's not true. But you know why I know that's still true? Because on the 1st and on the 2nd and on the 3rd of the month, you know what we do? Bills. And do bills care about your passion? Bills say, oh, I don't know nothing about no passion. I just know this cell phone about to go off. You about to only be able to receive calls. You're not going to make no call until you pay it. And after a while, you're not going to receive a call. Won't be no lights. The door won't work in the lock because you wasn't passionate about paying bills. But see how society has shifted? So when society shifts to passion over responsibility, when it comes to church, you see how people will be confused, right? Because their Monday through Saturday is impacting their Sunday. See, people have lost responsibility as a focus. People don't live goal-oriented lives in mass numbers, right? I'm talking about physical, right? If you want to change your finances, you got to have a goal. If you want to get better credit, that's a goal. There's things that you're going to have to stop doing now and not see any benefit for months. Repairing your credit take a long time. So you will have to stop in January to even, praise God, maybe by Q4, October, November, December, you even get a chance. Maybe. But some people think I can't do something in January for something in December because it's still January. Well, you're never going to repair your credit. No, I see online, people say if I pay $30, he or she could fix my credit again. See, if it worked like that, wouldn't everyone do that? But we get caught on that physically, right? Hey, you just eat this tea, chew on this lollipop, squeeze your stomach together, and you be ready to look like you want to look. And people what? They buy that, right? And what do their doctors say? No, don't work like that. But do people listen? No. Spiritually, people say you should do this to be saved. You should do that to be saved. Pay this money. And people do that, right? And what about here? Anywhere that say that? No, people say, no, this is a new way. We're consumed with a new way. But why don't you try the old way? Just try doing one crunch and then another crunch before you start buying tea to flatten your stomach. Try the old, people been doing crunches for thousands of years. Don't that seem like pretty effective, right? I mean, goodness gracious, 1,000 years compared to YouTube, not even 100 years. I mean, if I had to weigh which one I would trust, you see how even in the physical world it's lost, right? So it's no wonder why in the spiritual world, people don't have, because their attraction leads them over their responsibility, see? And some people will put themselves in physical harm's way, all because of attraction for something. Some people will go, you have men and women going into hotel rooms, never seen one doctor degree on any wall, letting somebody try to alter how their body look and die in the hotel room. What about the responsibility you have, right? You might have kids, you might have mother, father, right? You dead now. All because you were chasing an attraction. Oh, I want to look like this person look. We heard that person don't look like that. Who you want to look like? That person, their phone don't recognize them. That person changed from day to day. Their face can't even unlock their own phone. That's how much their face changed. And you want to look like that person? We have to think different, church, in the physical, because we in this physical, right? Spiritually, we only come together a couple of times. We got to be more focused on the spiritual. All right. For the brothers, all the baptized brothers who are on this week, if you can go to room 4, have your prayer. For the rest of us, let's turn to James 5. So all the brothers, we can go to our room and collect yourselves. We'll join you in a second. But for the rest of us, let's turn to James 5. Any sister read for me James 5, 17 through 28. A couple of verses here, 17 through 20. I don't know why this said 28, it's a typo. 17 through 20. James 5, 17 through 20. And then we'll close with this.
Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth and won't convert him, let him know that he which converted the sinner from the error of his way shall save us all from death and shall hide a multitude of sins.
All right, how does this relate to us, right? Because Brother David was talking about this. That's why it's a good place to end. He was talking about some major thing that happens in our life. And even then, society don't remember, we don't remember. That's what this verse is saying. This was a major thing, right? That James reflects on. But then he tells us about everyday things, right? Just saving a brother who's a sinner, right? Bringing them back to the fold. Well, that's not like stopping a drought physically, but does every response to a prayer have to be this grandiose or miraculous thing? Or are some responses in the quiet voice, like when God was revealing himself to Moses? That's where we are now, right? Does everything have to be a big situation, or can God still be effective in the everyday little moments is what we're asking, right? Definitely, Sister Karen said, right? Think of a parent. Does a parent owe a DNA report every day to prove their child? No, right? What are you talking about? Right? The everyday moments let you know that's my mother, that's my father. That's why I always respect people who adopt someone and they said, that's my child. Because I don't know what a stepchild is, right? That's my child. So somebody said, don't look like you. I don't know, I guess genes change. And then sometimes after a while, what do people say about the stepchild? Oh, they starting to look like you. Don't old people say that? Because the point that parent trying to make is, that's my child. I raised that child. That child lived with me now. Could have been anything. Parent could have died, could have been from different relationship, but I raised them. What you mean? Like, how are you going to tell me that's not my child? How are you going to tell the child that's not your parent? That's what your Bible says that about being adopted. God is saying, how's some Satan going to tell me that that's not my child? Satan's saying about Job and about us, no, that's not your child. How are you telling me? That's my child. Remember, he said, Job is mine. I know what Job will do. What did Satan say? Nope, Job will curse you. Okay, you trying to tell me what my kid gonna do. And did he curse him? No, I told you, because that's my child. Your children saying, yes, you could speak for them. But I'm talking about my child. See what I'm saying? So when we look at these things, it doesn't take some grandiose effect all the time. Don't limit God to that, because life is not about these high peak moments, right? Life is just a sum of small moments. So if you don't give God credit in the small everyday thing, you're missing out on the vast majority of what he's doing in your life. And you only looking for high points, like, I asked for a car, God gave it to me. I asked for a spouse, God gave it to me. I asked for a house, God gave it to me. Those are up here. But what about you woke up today? What about you were sick last week and you're not sick this week? Right? What about you had a good review at work? What about you went to the doctors and they said, you actually doing great this year? What about all the little things every day? You got home safe last night. What about praying over your food when you eat? Like everything you think, yeah, wow, God is sustaining me every single day. I'm missing the love between me and God because I'm only concerned with God stopping droughts in my life. I'm missing what he's doing every day. That's why Romans chapter 1 says that the invisible attributes should be clearly seen in nature. See, you should be able to go outside and see a sunrise or a sunset or see spring and bumblebees and butterflies, or you ever see a group of ants and just watch them. You should be thinking, wow, I'm missing the ants, because every day my mind is so focused on work. I'm missing ants. There's ants on the ground. I'm just stepping on them. We got to give God credit for the little miraculous moments in our lives, because that will help build our faith. Don't shortchange God in that. Just like we can't shortchange parenting that way. A parent's consistency over 18 years should be praised, not if they didn't give you a car. There's some parent, they're gonna be, I'm not the best parent, but was I there for you? Yes, that's noteworthy. You gotta honor that. So we gotta honor God and say, wow, God is consistent. God more consistent than me. I gotta give him credit for today. Today is 10:51. Look how much God bless you with already. Just today. Wow. You might have been sick at 10:51 a.m. yesterday or not feeling 100%. And compared to today, you think, yeah, that's right. 24 hours ago, I wasn't in the right frame of mind. Oh, I thank God for that. Wow. I appreciate that. Just a little thing like that will change your mind to be like, wow, I'm missing every 60 seconds. I'm missing because I'm thinking about what's happening 5 hours from now. And while you worrying about the 5 hours, you missed all the 60 seconds to get you to the 5 hours, right? We're missing the chance to give our praise because we're always so focused on these high peak moments. So that's what I would say as encouragement for us as we move into next week's class is don't miss this week your everyday moments. Sister Donna, then we'll close.
Yeah, that's why you hear people say, you have to stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
Because you miss life because you're always going or thinking about what's going to happen next. And so, the work week is like that, right? You come to work on Monday and it's always Monday morning. You can't wait till Friday, but you don't know what Friday has in store for you.
Correct.
Good, bad, or indifferent, you don't know. So we spend a lot of time wishing life away. And so much so that we can't hear God.
Yep.
And so God is in the quiet moments when you sit. And also, every breath we take is a big moment, right? I think we're not clear on what is a monumental moment versus, looking at something as being mundane. A house versus being able to breathe. What good is a house if you can't live in it, right? It does you no good. Right. So just stopping and listening to the voice of God and being appreciative of every breath we take and giving him the praise that he is so rightfully due. I think sometimes we do lose perspective on that.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, when you don't do that, you miss out giving God praise and you miss out faith building. Right. Because faith building comes from those everyday moments. If you just waiting for this in your life that we read about today, you're going to miss on so much faith opportunities because every day there's faith building moments in the tiniest thing that you can see, right? Worship service is that way. Worship service from opening prayer to closing prayer is filled with faith building moments, right? But if you only just waiting for whatever you waiting for and someone say, did you have a good worship? And you like, no, someone be like, how? What about this? Because your expectation was somewhere like when Moses was looking for God, remember? But God was just in the quiet thing. See, he was saying, you got to expect me to interact the way I'm going to interact. So again, this week, think about two things. One is, like Brother David was saying, try to make at least 5 minutes to take some inventory of your day, wins and losses. And if you need an example, how could I handle any situation better, right? Try to do that this week. And then the second thing this week is, try to reduce to analyzing the small moments, right? What are some things in your day that you can be thankful to God that you're normally not thankful for? That's what we're saying, right? And just inventory of your day. Now, if you normally give God praise for something, pick something else. Pick something that you normally don't give God credit for. You might say, well, I normally complain about this, But instead of complaining about it this week, see where the good lies. Those are your 2 pieces of homework for next week. All right, next week, we're going to just do a bridge between this lesson and the next. We're going to see if there's any additional questions to question 5. But we're really going to move to 1 Kings 19. So if you have some time this week, read that. Thank you for everyone's attendance, your participation. We appreciate it. Read 1 Kings 19. We'll start class next week reading that, but if you can read that in advance, that'll be great. If you're online with us, we're going to stop our stream now. In about 5 minutes, we're going to start our worship service. But for those of us who are here, you have 5 minutes. You can get up, relieve yourself, greet one another. And we'll start in 5 minutes to our worship service. Thank you so much again for your participation.